client,
Yeah.
how do you define those steps?
Okay, so great question. I'm going to ask the sensei of sales if it's okay if we go off track. So are you okay if I'm getting a little away from this, but is that okay if
Yeah, let's off road.
Okay, so just want to make sure. So the first question, you are going to define each one of these. Who's a prospect for you at LeapFox? Who's a prospect?
Someone who may do business.
Okay, could be. In this case, everybody's a prospect. Okay, who doesn't need training? Everybody's a prospect. But the next step might be somebody that raised their hand and had some interest level.
Okay.
So a prospect would be some interest level. Earlier today, I did a little training for a company. It's called Newsletter Pro. Ironically enough, Scott Cody used to own this company. But I don't know why that's ironic, but I guess 7 degrees of separation. How's that? So the question would be, in this case, Travis, they raised their hand and said, I want your free orange book. So where's the free orange book that says how to write a newsletter? So once they raise their hand, they become a possibility. So you've got to ask the question, because you're really good, I think, at, what is it called? CEO? What's the kind of marketing? SEO. So you're really good at SEO marketing, and somewhere somebody's got to go, hey, I want your stuff. And Scott knows this because we're working on this prospect together. Out of the blue, I get a note from a prospect. He lives, we call him Rhode Island Rick, because we think he probably doesn't even live in Rhode Island. But he said, hey, I saw your videos on YouTube. Tell me how I buy your book. Now he's gone from prospect to possibility, because there's some form of engagement. So now I mail him my book. I put my newsletter in there. I mail him my book. He sends me an email. Wow, I normally don't read books. I read this one cover to cover. And Scott makes a phone call and says, would you like to make an appointment? Because in that appointment, this is where we're gonna go. We're gonna find out, does he have enough pain, or is there a gain? Where's he at? Now, our thought is he doesn't have any money, because we've already jumped to the budget step, but we shouldn't do that right there. So once we figure out how much pain he's got, we have a second appointment. Now he becomes a probability. He goes from possibility to probability, because guess what we're going to ask him for in that second appointment? His business. So once you get to the appointment where you're going to ask them for the business, they become probability. So in theory, and those of you, I'll try to draw this so if you're watching at home, you can see this as far as, so here's a prospect. Here's a possibility. I think that's showing, maybe it's not. Okay, possibility, probability, I'll just put PRB, and a client. Now you should have, let's just say this side of the script is yes, and this side is no. So in this case, they go to no, here's how I market it. But they said yes, so now they're going to drop down here, and I'm going to send them my fatal flaws, and I'm going to, but at any time if they say no, you still keep them in your funnel. So you're able to do that. So you have to define this by yourself. In my case, I have a website, it's called AskDaveTester.com. If somebody goes to AskDaveTester.com, they become a prospect. Because I'm so damn hard to get a hold of. I don't mean as far as returning phone calls and stuff like that. I just don't have a very good system where you're really good at that kind of stuff. How do you get a hold of that? I don't know. Hope somebody finds me in LinkedIn. Hope they find me. And if they have to stumble, they're a prospect. Then I send them the book. If they send me an email, wow, that was the greatest book ever. Now I know where I'm working with. Okay. Now remember, at some point they're going to say no along the way. Hey, would you like to do something? I still keep them in my funnel. But you need to be able to say, scale of 1 to 10, Travis. 10, we're probably going to do business at some point. 1, you're just shopping. Where are we at?
10.
Okay, so I'm going to keep you over on the end. That doesn't mean you're a client yet. That just moves you from here to here. As soon as you go over to anything lower than 6, you're here. I don't want to forget about you, because the question you guys have to ask yourself, and that's kind of your job, what are you doing between now and the time they're going to buy or they want to buy again? is you're calling current customers and saying, thank you. What do you like best? Is there anything we can do better? And who do you know that I should know? So great question as far as, but you really define this. So who's your prospect? Okay, so it's not necessarily somebody that calls, because remember, they call, they want to buy. When they call, they're already a possibility. But a prospect would be, let's just make up something, training coordinators that work in companies that are $3 million or greater that don't do their own training. Okay, so for example, CWI, would that be a fit or not a fit? Would? Okay. And by the way, I would encourage you, remind me when we're done, I do have a lead at CWI. So don't ask me why, they wanted to talk to me about doing something, and then they go, we're getting a lot of calls, people want to do Excel. And I was like, oh, I know somebody that can help with that. All right, so was I able to clarify, or did I confuse you?
Excellent.
Okay, so you should know all the way along the lines, and even when they become a client, how do you take care of it? All right, so now we're going to rewind back into our system. Today we're at the budget step and the decision step. So here's where we're going to start out doing our group work. And we've done this before. Jim, you kind of did it the other day with me when I asked you about the refrigerator. I said, Jim, you're going to go get a refrigerator. So this is kind of that same deal, is you guys, here's your assignment. You're buying a Tundra truck. This Tundra is at Peterson. This Tundra is at Tom Scott, soon to be called Dave Edmar. But this is Tom Scott Toyota. This is Peterson Toyota. Notice they're the same vehicle. Now for you compliance, I'm sure somebody's going to go, no, that's the 4-barrel. But they're the same exact vehicle. What is going to determine how you buy this vehicle? So Scott, I'll have you kind of spread us out a little, so we're working with new people. But your discussion is going to be what determines. Now remember, you're buying this truck. So you're getting this truck, but what's going to determine which location you go to? What's going to determine?
Team A in the back and Team B in the front.
Okay, sounds good.
3 and 3.
3 by 3.
3 by
And one of you is going to be what do we call it, a scribe. So one's going to take notes. What's going to determine, so you are buying this truck and they're the same truck with the exception of Team A's at Peterson, Team B's at Tom Scott Toyota.
Okay, so I'm how old it is?
Same car, right?
Yeah, you can say it's like comparable specs. Like one.
Literally the same,
It's literally the same car?
right? It's supposed to be like, it's supposed to.
No, it is the same car. There's no way, ifs, ands, or buts.
New?
It's the same Tundra. They're both 2019s.
Okay.
Same. They're the same vehicle.
Okay, there we go. Reviews, service department. Yeah, then the deal that the sales guy's gonna get us.
Personality of sales.
Yeah, he's a dick. He's a dick. It's
How close the store is to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's same.
convenient. Location. Yeah, that's good.
Past experiences, if you find it, if it's a deal, good or bad. Relationship.
Which one's giving the free beef?
Who has the meat?
Who has the meat? I already know. Do you have come? Okay, which one allows me to do a drive? If everything else is the same.
Who gives you more trade-in under?
Oh, yeah, trade in.
I think I'm almost always in this situation gonna go, man, if you. But that's just me. Not everyone can do that same shit.
All right, let's go about 30 seconds, 30 more seconds. I pulled the tester on you guys today. I got a ton of material and I'm going to pack it in a short amount of time. So 30 more seconds.
decided whether the sales guy's a slap or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, if one of them is a slap, then obviously we're gonna go with the other guy.
What if they're both slaps?
Ooh. So let's go ahead. What if they're both slaps? What does that force you to do?
I guess then you have to go to something else.
Yeah.
They've both been microchip.
You gotta buy it on the internet, right?
Well, I mean, if they're both slaps, I would still go with the cheaper car.
Yeah, well, then it's moot point.
Yeah.
At that point.
All right, I'm gonna count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. A lot of times, as Scott knows, I put a third vehicle up here. It's interesting as I do this, and I thought it was just in Idaho, but I found out it's in Washington and Texas and California. I heard Scott say, well, obviously price is really important. That was the first words out of your mouth. And if you look at why people buy, the number one reason is because of the salesperson. The number one. The number two is service. I heard it might have been you that said, hey, I'm gonna look online. Number three is the name, GMC, Ford, Chevy, whatever it might be. Price is clear down at number 7, but in our mind, that's what we lead with. And part of it is, Travis, if you think about this, if I asked you the most recent car commercial that you saw, what are they talking about?
Price.
Okay,
So let's
Twitter.
talk about the features. If you watch the ones in the evening, like the BMWs and the Mercedes.
Okay, but did you already said BMW and Mercedes? Do you think the people that buy BMW and Mercedes talk about price?
No.
No. And the question is, why do these guys do it? So let's kind of go into our groups now. Who's our spokesperson for each group? So who's our spokesperson for back group? Jim? All right, gentlemen, Jim, what were some things that came up for you guys that said, I'm going to Peterson because, or I'm going to Tom Scott Toyota because?
So you put number 1 would be you, the salesperson. If you find someone that you like, would
Okay.
be basically what they can throw in.
And if you like them, who do they have to be like?
Me.
That's how they have to be. It's like Jim. So Jim, if you come on my lot and I put my arm around you and go, hey, buddy, old pal, what's going on? Want to buy something?
Hell no.
Okay, now Jim might smile because Jim is jovial, and I might think that Jim's good to go, but that may not be the case. So good one. So 1 is like, okay?
But what bonuses can you also get? What
Okay,
are they-
bonuses. That's a big one for me. I'm gonna buy it based on who negotiates. Because what do I have to feel like as a dominant? Okay, I have to feel like and I'm really not gonna talk a lot about price. I really don't care about the price, and it doesn't mean that I have the cash to, but I have to feel like I gotta win. So that might be the tow package. That might be, hey, if I take it over to Les Schwab, can I throw wheels on? That kind of stuff. Okay, keep going, Jim.
So the service.
Service.
What kind of reputation they have for maintenance or mechanics.
Okay.
I guess convenience would be the best way to put it.
Distance from our house.
Distance from your house.
There's a
You
great
guys
one.
Stole that one from us.
How close are they to your house? Which you wouldn't think that because the largest dealer of Dodge trucks in America or in the world is Dave Smith in Kellogg, Idaho. How many of you been to Kellogg? Maybe, have you been to Kellogg? Okay, so I was gonna say maybe here, but that would be it. Nobody else, how are they the largest dealer, you know? Well, everybody flies to Spokane, they come and pick you up, you buy your Dodge and you drive it home. Notice here, location wasn't a big one. Number one complaint of car dealers, we have a horrible location, but you made a great point. Location's important.
Because that's where you're getting it.
Did you guys have price at all in the back row?
Oh, yeah.
That was your first one. How about Jim? What was your first one?
I don't know that I had a first one.
Okay. Let's go to row 2.
Row 1.
Yeah.
Can we be row 1?
No.
Well, you're actually 2 because I'm row 3, or I'm row 1 and you'd be row 2.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you're in the middle either way.
Hate to see you, as my kids say.
Oh, get right.
So we had price. I personally said price was my biggest one. We had look up reviews on their service department,
Okay.
proximity to our location, The salesman personality, you know, if they're sleazy, you probably don't want to buy from them. If they're nice, we do. Your relationship with the salesman, like
Okay.
if you knew him or if he had done business with you before, then
And I hope everybody heard that, because just because you already have a deal, doesn't mean you can keep that deal, or doesn't mean they'll do more. Scott and I were brainstorming today about working with car dealers and coming up with a program, how we said, hey, what if we called all of their customers from 3 years ago, said, thank you, and would you like to buy a new vehicle? Guess what's probably going to happen to at least 33% of them?
yeah.
I mean, at least we'll get them a test drive, at least that. All right. Any others?
Yeah, we had test drive, like who's gonna have a better test drive
Okay.
for us, and who would give us more trade-in value.
Okay.
Trade-in.
All of those. Good, good. And remember, none of them are wrong. This is just as you go to the budget step, it's important that you say, hey, my number one reason on the budget step is price. You have to kind of put that in the back seat and focus on what the prospect's number one reason is. So that's what you have to think about. Just like you said price is real important, but also it sounds like some form of a relationship, things like that are a key. Travis, I'm going to ask you this question. How come 99% of people that walk onto a car lot, okay, they go to whether it's Edmark or Peterson, they walk onto a car lot, 9 out of 10, it's actually a little more than that, want to take a test drive. They want to take a test drive. But how come only, well, it's actually less than 30%, but we'll say 33%. How come 33% actually take a test drive? So remember, 9 out of 10 want to take a test drive, but only 3 out of 10 do. Why do you think that is?
They're scared they're gonna like it and be forced to buy it.
Okay, there's one.
They already
They're
know.
more committed at that point. They've taken the time, they've used some sales guys' time to take it out and run it around. They're
Okay.
more obligated to purchase it.
Okay, but what I'm saying is,
They probably
9 people
buy it.
came on the lot, and they all, of the 9, I want to take a test drive, but only 3 take a test drive. So yours said more committed. What is yours?
They don't get asked.
It don't get any more difficult than that, because here's the challenge on car lots. They've been trained to upsell, cross-sell, and flooring and all that kind of stuff, versus saying something like this, Travis, of course, that means I've done some bonding rapport, but Travis, how do you like to buy? Well, as you said, number one's price. Is price your only concern, Travis?
Sure, get a good deal.
Okay, good deal. Anything else?
What can you throw in?
What can I throw in? So what have I discovered just by asking those questions versus I'm just looking? So remember, on the budget step, it's important that you ought not quote price until you believe it's in the best interest of your prospect to solve their problem. So in this case, Jim comes on my lot. He asks me, how much is an F-150? Well, it's $34,000. Is that with the tow package? No. See, Jim, I quoted price before I found out what was best for you. So do not quote price. No different. You were talking today about a lady had called and she wanted to get something done and how much is it? We can't quote price unless we believe it's going to solve their problem. Scott's working on a program I'm going to help him out with. Next month, we're going to, I think it's management training. Is that right, for the Department of Ag, or is it motivation or
It's a leadership.
leadership?
Course.
Yeah. And we actually did quote price before we knew what we needed to solve. And that kind of puts you in a conundrum, because somebody feels like they're not getting everything that should go in there. So I want you guys to write down, when it comes to budget, we need to co-build. So I know you're not taking a lot of notes today, but please write that. When it comes to the budget step, I've got to co-build a plan. So in the case of Travis, I know that price is your only concern. I know that you need to make sure you're getting a good deal, and you want to see what I throw in. So we're co-building this together. Well, let's see what I can throw in. If I can throw in this, can you do that? Because I want to make it a win-lose. I'm telling you that. I want to make it a win-lose, because I want you to feel like you're going to win, or whatever it is that's important to you. So here are the key questions for the budget step. This is where you really need to lock in, because this is the verbiage. I put pictures up there because we're attracted to pictures, but the verbiage looks like this. Make sure you know what the issue is costing them and how it makes them feel. Remember we talked about this in the pain step. So Travis, let's pretend you're buying a new truck. I don't even know if you have a truck, but let's pretend you are. Let's pretend your business is you're a constructor, you do roofing. And your current truck, you can't depend on. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I ask you the question, what's it costing you? Remember, this is part of my pain. So I've already gone through the pain and the gain, and I know what's it costing you. Well, every time I lose a roofing deal, it costs me $10,000. How many roofing deals have you lost? Well, only one. Okay. How does that make you feel? It makes me feel angry. It makes me upset. It makes me, because you need to know this before you get to the budget. Now I can say, Travis, there's something I don't like to talk about. It's money. Because you guys all know, I showed you how I grew up when we did the disc. You remember the red barn? What was the story about the red barn?
Put the tractor behind the barn.
Yeah. How come?
You didn't want to see it, everyone see you.
You don't want everybody to see my new tractor. So Travis, I'm letting you know, when I get to this step, I don't like to talk about money. Is it okay if we talk about money for about 7 minutes? Okay. So based on what you've told me, it's costing you about $10,000 every time you lose a job. You also told you it makes you feel disappointed, upset, makes you feel like you're letting your family down, but more importantly, it makes you feel like you're letting the prospect or the customer down because you can't deliver. Have you thought about a budget? Well, what's he already thought about? Because we've told him based on one job a month. Now you can't put roofs on, let's just say November, December, January, and February. So 12 minus 4 is how much? 9. Okay.
12 minus 4?
Yeah, 8. I'm just double checking. So 8, but remember I let him do the math. And if you're losing on average one job a month, how much would that be?
10 grand, 80 grand.
$80,000. And you told me that it makes you feel this way and this way. Have you thought about a budget for solving that problem?
No, but I can swing 600 bucks a month.
Okay, can swing 600 bucks a month. Now, does that sound logical? I've got an $80,000 problem and I want you to fix it for $600 a month.
Seems a little bit.
Okay, but yet we're so focused on we got to make the sale that we're like, hell, I'll make it anyway. So we've got to make sure that we know. And my question to you be, how did you come up with that number? How did you come up with the number of $600?
I know how much money I have left over at the end of the month.
Okay, so at the end of the month, you have $600 left over. Let's pretend that you didn't lose those deals. How much money would you have left over at the end of the month if, and I think I'm using what you said, $80,000 didn't just go out the door? How much would you have? And you probably haven't thought about it before, but how much would you have left over then?
Well, if I was losing 10 grand per deal, I didn't have, my profit on a $10,000 deal is probably two grand in profit.
Okay.
So I'd probably have 500, 600 bucks a month.
Okay. So if I were to tell you that it's going to cost you $5,000-$6,000 for me to come in, or in this case, we'll just use 10,000, but let's keep it, is that a deal breaker? So if I told you to work at Microtech, we charge $1,500 a month. That's kind of the baseline I use. Okay, depending, some are $750, but you know, I talked to Randy about growing it to $1,500 a month. The beauty of a client that pays $1,500 a month, what kind of client are they? When they call up, you answer, yeah, 15, we're going to answer your call. So I know that it's going to solve your problem. So my question to you, Travis, is that a deal breaker? All right. So where did I start at? What was he willing to spend? 600. We reminded, because remember, we got to remind him of the pain, back to why we go through our system. Not only is it so we don't get off track, but so now I can go back to my notes. Remember the pain you told me about. Remember the gain, because he's going to forget $80,000. Fact is, he didn't even remember it. He remembered the $10,000 deal, but he forgot that. So it sounds like it's not a deal breaker. And then what do I always have to think? I'm going to go to Travis Palmer. what I always think is I build the budget,
You're co-building.
co-build it. What does that look like? So let's think about the lady today. How many people are going to come to the class?
30.
So 30 people are going to come to the class. Probably one of my biggest concerns is how are you going to measure if I did a good job or a bad job? Because I don't know about you, I can barely manage my 2 kids, let alone 30. How are you going to measure whether we did a good job or a bad job?
Well, we're talking about having the teacher come out for a second day, so he can, help the people integrate what they've learned into their daily tasks.
Okay, and remind me, what is the cost of the teacher for a day? 1,500. Second day. What about if he came out for a third day and usually there's a group. So what I found is there's the average group, there's the slow folks, and then there's the expedited group. What if we had him come out for a day for the expedited group? Because remember, 16% of your people are going to say, yeah, it was okay, it was a good reminder, but it can't really help me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay,
For free?
and again, say again?
For free?
Well, it could be if you would be, well, I mean, again, I'm not going to, because I'm still not going to quote a price. Because here's my biggest fear about 30 people for $1,500. What's the class they're going to take?
They're looking at doing an Office 365.
Okay, Office 365. How am I going to be measured? Because remember, I'm not making any money on 30 people at $1,500 a piece. Where am I going to get to where is it going to become a profitable client?
When they come back again.
Yeah, and again, they do a monthly thing. So that's why it's important to co-build. Don't skip the budget step or assume, where'd you come up with the $1,500? Because right now I'm at I'm at $4,500 in my head. Where did your free come up from? There must be a reason you said for free.
Oh, I thought we nailed the class already.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but remember,
Feature you were
what's the
having.
most important thing when you buy? What's the most important thing?
Price.
There you go. So make sure you know that's not the case for them,
Mhm.
because you ought not quote price, because I'd like to be able to have a class for everybody. Then the people that missed it, here's the reinforcement. And for our expedited group, here's this. Because guess who can also go into the expedited class? The people that went day 2 and said, hey, we want to do more. And then we need to have a plan. Again, if you're building it as a team versus here's what I've got to have happen. So those are things I want you to think about in the budget step. Have you thought about a budget? Where did you come up with that? So let's use an example, Danny, in your world. Ask me, and let's say I've got, and I'm just going to use this in here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 9 computers. Okay? I got 9 computers and 18 people that work for me. So go ahead and just start with, have you thought about a budget?
David, have you thought about a budget?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Norton charges me $56 a year. So I'm thinking 56, and that'll take, so let me do the math here real quick on this. I don't know, $100 a month probably?
$100 a month.
Now I could probably do a little more. I could probably do $112 a month. Because I put Norton on all these and it's just getting to be a pain in the butt.
And so, when you're having issues, what's that costing? How does it feel?
Okay, but hold on, because remember, you're in the budget step now. So what should your next question be?
How'd you come up with that number?
How'd you come up with that number? So I want you to slow down, because remember, you've already found out my pain. But as you get into this, now I come up with a number, $112 a month, because where did I come up with that? Well, based on what Norton charges me a year. And really, all you are is a glorified Norton, right?
Sure.
Okay, whatever it is, but again, we didn't agitate it up. So Dave, if I told you, based on what you've told me about your pain, how the business has to shut down, a good example is your owner could be in the middle of training and somebody goes, hey, we're having trouble in the Excel room. Can you come fix it? How much is that? So you already know what it's costing. Because the real question you want to be able to ask is, suppose I said $1,500, is that going to be a deal breaker? And guess what they'll say 9 times out of 10? No, they'll say no, but what do they want you to do?
Go with whatever.
Build, they want you to build value. So at $1,500, now I'm not opposed to $1,500 a month, Danny, here we go. But what am I gonna get for that? Okay, see how I even get, what am I gonna get for $1,500 a month?
So let me ask you a question then. So in our sales strategy, we have used that as an opportunity to educate them. So we'll counter with, hey, industry standard and Gartner research says that small businesses such as yourself should spend, roughly 3% of your annual revenue on IT, maybe 1% on support services. You probably are roughly the X is your revenue, so according to industry standards, your IT budget should be Y. What do you think about that?
All right.
What do you?
So great question. Let's kind of break down, because I heard some things, Gardner, I heard education, I heard industry standard. So let's go back to our selling system, conversation disc. So based on our selling system, this is 16%, this is 41, this is 21, 22. Of this group of people, who wants to be educated and who wants to know about what was the system?
Just.
Gardner, no, you called it something.
Gardner.
Gardner.
Statistics.
Yeah.
Gardner. So according to Gardner, Tommy Alquist, here's where we are. Who probably in here really wants that?
Seeds or estimates.
Okay, so let's just take both of them. So I would tell you for 43% of your customers, I think that's outstanding. I think that's as long as you ask me, how do you like the book? But what about for 57% of your customers?
Don't give a damn.
And I don't know that, but let me throw this at you. They care about feelings. These people care about facts. And think about your personality style. Are you more into facts or feelings? Facts. So I'm going to sell to you different than this guy because you want the facts and probably not a lot of emotion. So I'm going to send you the Gardner report and I'm going to do all that. This guy, he doesn't care Gardner, Smartner. All he cares about is when I'm in the middle of training, I don't hear, hey, something's wrong. He doesn't want to hear that. So that's what, remember back to our system, and our mission is not to follow 2 different systems, but that's where we've got this in our back pocket. You go, I'm dealing with Danny, he's going to want to know the facts. So I'm going to give you the facts. And I'm going to give you time to digest and what goes on. So remember, you're not going to sell the same way to everybody, but a reminder to you is don't educate, sell. Because whose job is it to educate? The guys that drive those white cars and have a little orange stripe down the side of them, you know who they are? It says Microtech. You ever seen those cars? That's their job, is to educate. Your job is to sell. Now, if you come to me, and Danny, if you're in this 22%, you say, I need to know how the system works, you show it to them. So Danny, to answer your question, you're absolutely correct. Just make sure you don't get these flipped around. Because what if you start giving facts to Donald Trump and to Vin Diesel and to Jimmy Fallon and in some cases Nicole Kidman? But let's bounce it around. If you give Spock, who's fascinated and has no emotion, you start giving feelings to him. So that's where this process, when you get to the budget step, I've got to remember Danny is a compliant guy, because you said, well, I want to see the reviews. I think I heard you say that. I want to see the reviews. How come? There's no emotion in a written review. Keeps all the emotion out. So excellent question in that, and that's part of this step, because you're always going to want to know, hey, Danny, how do you like to buy? I want some facts. I want to read some testimonials. I wouldn't mind mixing in a white paper, those type of stuff. So remember, that's in the budget step. Now we're going to the decision step. Scott Galloway, I would like you to read this line.
Prospects never think it over.
All right. So our mission is to stay out of the think it over. How long has this guy been thinking for? Huh? Yeah, he's been thinking for a long time. the thinker. By the way, on the road, Jim, you help me out with this. It's right before you get to the Dalles. When you go to Oregon, on the other side, there's a museum and a whole, have you ever seen that before? They have a miniature of the thinker. So it's kind of a cool thing. A little side here that I work, I don't know what the name of it is, maybe. No, it's a museum that they have.
They have agricultural one, no, the Stonehenge.
Yeah, they have the Stonehenge, but it's kind of cool to go up there and see the,
Marysville?
could be, yeah. So if you ever go to Portland, go across the bridge to Marysville, and you see the Stonehenge, and you can also see the thinker. It's kind of fun. So here we are at the decision step, and here's your notes. We need to make sure that our prospect isn't think it over. A friend of mine once told me that's a slow no. Think it over is slow no. Remember when we talked about the pendulum? The pendulum's here. What's it doing? Nothing. So you're either pushing it to buy or pushing it not to buy. So here's some things we think about. What does your decision-making process look like? Now, as I was told today, or I guess it was yesterday, I was making cold calls for Allied Business Solutions. They said, I'm tired of gatekeepers that think they're in charge. Well, dude, then you need to do a better job because gatekeepers think they're in charge. You didn't bond and rapport and have the conversation and find out, and you didn't ask them questions like, well, what does your decision-making process look like? I assume you're the one in charge. And immediately then the gatekeepers go, no, I'm not in charge. That's Scott Galloway. He's the boss. Oh, well, you certainly sounded like the boss to me. Well, I mean, I sort of am. I mean, I give him ideas, and then he decides what to do. Jim, read line number 3 if you can see it okay.
Can anyone veto this decision?
Right? So what I'm trying to find out is, there's always think of the Wizard of Oz. Who's the guy behind the curtain? Okay, that's what we're trying to do, is who's this mystery guy? So can anyone veto this decision? Now, when you're working with groups, and Scott, I'm assuming sometimes in the military and the Department of Ag and those type of things, they've got to have a committee or a group. You want to find out if they're on board. Will you recommend our solution? Will you recommend Microtech? And if they go, well, I don't recommend anything, I right in the middle of the fence, then you've got a challenge there. They're not considered a possibility. Now remember, if they're an influencer, Travis, what might they do to you if you say, will you recommend us?
Oh yeah, I'll give you guys glowing.
Sure they will, absolutely. Then you ask them the question, what do you think they'll say? We got this from LeapFox because a lot of times they'll say, well, send me the information and I'll email it out to the team. So that's why you say, well, what do you think the team will say? When you send the email out, what do you think they'll say? And Jim, I'll just use you as an example. You're going to email my training out to the team. What do you think they'll say when you email it?
I don't know, they'll probably just look at it. May not even pay attention.
That's kind of what I thought. Our team does the same thing. Jim, would it make sense for me to come in or do a video presentation? Because why would I want to do video? What's the human eye attracted to? Yeah. So really good billboards have a picture of somebody. You may not know who they are, but there's, hey, why do they put that dumb picture of Billy up there? Human eyes attracted to pictures. That's why video is such a hot property right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, this probably would be the most important thing that you own every single time. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you'll use the budget and the decision step every step of the way. 1 being, no, I probably won't. Where are you? I'm at a 5. Well, how come you didn't say a 4? Well, I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Well, I'm at a 9. Will you use it today when we make the calls? Now, who would we say, Travis, I don't know why I always think you're our sports fan. Are you our resident sports fan? Do you? Matt is? Are you a sports fan? Okay. What is a letter of intent? A lot of times I hear high school athletes signed his letter of intent with the University of Montana. What does that mean?
They are letting them know that they're intending to join their program next season.
Okay. And could they, if they wanted to get out of it, could they?
Yes.
They probably could. All right. So I always ask things like, would you be willing to sign a letter of intent or an agree to agree? back to your question, Travis, I can do an agree to agree as a possibility. Would you be willing to sign an agree to agree? What's that mean? It means we've agreed to go from a possibility to a probability. Are you open to that? Sure. Would you be willing to sign a letter of intent? I realize that you can't sign a check till the 15th of July that says, after the 15th of July, I'll go from probability to claim. Well, is it binding? Nope. But what am I saying to you when I ask, do you want to sit in the front of the class, the middle of the class, or the back of the class? And you answer by saying, what?
Middle.
Okay, middle, or, well, I'm not ready to pick a seat yet. Because we need to find out where these people are. Where are you at? And then the last question is, how would you like to proceed? And make sure it doesn't sound something like this. See if I have it here. Oh, yeah. Let me think it over. What will you think about? I get the feeling that I didn't give you all the information. And that's when you ask them, Danny, on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, Danny, I hate to use the word cut to the chase because I know that you want to be correct. You're a detailed guy. But that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, if this fits the criteria, you will do it. 6 being, I really like you, you're a nice guy, you've done everything you're supposed to, but I probably won't. And 1 being, not only beat it, but get the hell out of here. Where are we? And then I have to be quiet with Danny, how come? That's the only time it's okay for him to think it over. So now he can think it over, but in return, what am I going to get, Matt? What am I going to get? He's thought it over, what do I get in return? Well, I'm not going to get a yes or no, but what will I get code for yes or no? Because if he says 10, what's that mean? Agree to agree. If he says 1, try harder, no for now, and now I'm going to practice. So I'm able to have all those steps in place because it's pretty important. So now here's the challenge for you. Can you do one thing every day that scares you to death? This is an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. Now, I'm letting you all know I am afraid of heights and I will not skydive. That's why I put that up. I'm not going to skydive, but I had a client of mine yesterday. He's a sales manager at Allied Business Solutions. He said, hey, on the way back from Idaho Falls, I started calling companies in California. And he called, there's a nut company in San Francisco that does all these walnuts. And he goes, I thought I would just call them and see how your system worked. So he called the front desk. Hey, it's me. Did I catch you at a bad time? I'm a little lost here. And he said he got to 6 levels just by practicing. And he says, you know what I do whenever I'm on that road? I call people that aren't even on the framework to practice. Because here's the good news is he's going to be better calling the Salesforce or Saleshood because he's not going to get that deal, or at least that's what is in his head, so he might as well practice. So that's where I would challenge you to do one thing every day that scares you to death. And part of that is getting people out of the think it over stage, or part of it is don't sell how you like to buy, all those pieces that go with it. So as we wrap up today, coming up to the final 4 minutes. Now we're at budget, we're at decision. Now this was just a snapshot of it, but the budget says, have you thought about a budget? That doesn't mean you're supposed to quote a price, and it certainly doesn't mean they're going to think about a budget like you think about a budget. When we come to the decision point, is there anything I've missed? Is the CFO going to bust through the door right now? Is it, well, I've already asked because I say, is there anybody that can veto this? Because remember, all of us in this room, for Microtech, not all of us, but 3 of us, can say no. So you 3 are empowered to say no to any salesman in Microtech. So any salesperson that comes in, can be the Pepsi Cola person, it can be the insurance salesman. You guys, it's all okay for you to say no. But what can't the 3 of you say? Yes. So in the decision process, what are you trying to find out? You can say yes. No different than Leap Fox. Now it's a little different here because we do have the one guy that can say yes. And I've even asked him, is there anybody that can veto this? Nope. All right, so I found the decision maker. That's real important. Now, our next will be the delivery or the post-sale, what that looks like, because again, you go through all this process, and I use this analogy, the paper boy takes this brilliant newspaper that's got ads and great articles, and the paper boy throws it in the mud. So you have to be really cognizant of your delivery. So want you to think about that. Travis Palmer, why don't you give us some version of a reminder, or what was your takeaway, or what stuck out to you today?
Something that stuck out to me today was co-building versus selling. And because I think I'm really weak on co-building, and I think because a lot of time I worry that I'm selling too much when I'm actually co-building with someone.
Think about if you were to, and I think you're a skier, is that correct? So let's pretend you didn't have any gear. I said, hey, come to Whitefish, Montana. We're going to go to Big Mountain. So you came up to my counter and think about how we're going to co-build what it costs for you. Because number one, what kind of boots do you want? Good, better, or best? So let's just start with boots. Good, better, or best?
Best.
Okay, so now I put up the best boots. What kind of skis? Good, better, or best? Okay, best with the skis. I can go all the way to the, now we might get to the jacket and you go, you know what, I just need a windbreaker, but we've co-built. Now along the way, I might say, I'm using bindings because remember, I'm not a ski, but you know, Travis, based on how you've got the best boots, the best skis, and you said you wanted good bindings, my fear is you're going to be walking out of those when you get on a black diamond. Now, I support what you're doing, but would it make sense to look at another option?
Yeah.
Now, when we co-build, guess what doesn't even become an issue?
Selling, cross-selling.
Price.
Yeah. Oh,
Not even
yeah.
price, because we co-build. Oh, no, I'm still going to upsell you
Mhm.
because you want a hot dog or whatever that might be. But I want you to think of that as if you're going to Big Mountain or Big Sky or Swites or wherever it is, you're going to get your gear. I don't just slap up some gear and go, well, it's $34 a day, because I'm going to co-build. Because I want your experience to be what at Big Mountain?
Amazing.
I want it to be amazing. And if you don't have good skis, if you get the $34 package, what's your experience going to be like?
It'd probably still be pretty good, honestly.
It's gonna be trash.
Okay.
It'll be terrible.
But did I hear you say pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want pretty good. I want outstanding or crappy.
The best or nothing.
So if you asked me before I came here, there's a client I meet with every Tuesday at lunch. And today we decided to go to a different restaurant. We always go to Sherry's, not because of the food. Guess why we go?
Proximity. Oh, service.
Service and you, okay? There's a gal that works there in the service. We go there, we have our own table. We go, hey, let's try someplace else. So we go someplace else. The food was fine. Okay? No, the food was great. Let's use great. But the service was so bad, and just little things like I ordered my special egg white omelet with tomatoes, no carbs. Guess what it came with? Hash browns. Now she can run a plate of tomatoes, which she did. Forgot to fill all those type of things. Remember how important this is. It could have been the cheapest omelet in the world. Guess where we're not going again?
That place.
That place.
Shame them.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Sunrise.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And normally that's what
We
they're
should
really
put
good
a
at.
bomb right here.
Well, Scott and I go to, where is it that you and I go? Quick Grill.
Express Cafe?
Express Cafe. 3 things. They're fast, their food portions are solid, and their restrooms are clean. There you go. Boom. How's their food? Oh, it's okay. I mean, it's not like, oh man, they got Chef Tell in there. It's pretty good portions. They're fast and it's clean. So you know exactly what you're getting. So same for you. What do you want your experience to be at Lead Fox?
Amazing.
Well, I can't answer that for you because you might go, hey Dave, I'm just selling Excel spreadsheets for God's sakes. How are you going to go, man, that was the most amazing Excel class I've ever taken? I don't know. That's what you guys say for Microsoft. You have to determine what kind of experience you want. Because back to how we started this, and I think I'm right on time, we started with a Mercedes and a BMW. Do they talk about price or they talk about the experience? You buy a BMW, we're going to give you a really good deal. Or how do you feel when you drive a Mercedes? I have no idea, but based on the commercials, it looks like it's pretty cool. It looks like it's a good feeling.
So good you don't need to.
How's it feel?
Oh,
okay. All
But
right.
they look like they feel real good in the commercials.
Yes. I'll just show you, since we're talking about books, well, we're not really talking about it, but a couple of suggested reads.
Did we ever mention books?
Yes, no, we didn't, but I'll put these in.
Since we're talking about books,
We're talking about
that
it
was a
now.
smooth transition.
Since we're not talking about it.
15 minutes ago, he said somebody wanted to buy a book.
That was my takeaway. Oh, we did
Oh,
talk about
yes.
books.
Yes.
It was for a brief couple.
Yes.
Super high level.
Like I said, you were getting tested today. This is the book I'm in the middle of. It's called Driven to Delight. Maybe that's why but it was talking about things they do for Mercedes car owners. And
Are they
maybe,
invest or nothing? Is that their slogan? Or is that new?
no,
I love that
it's
slogan.
know your customer.
You're thinking of Lexus.
It could be whatever it is, but these are some really good, and then let me give you one other book here. And this is focused on, let's see if I can find his new book. So this is Jeb Blount. Let me go back to
Does he have a
Amazon.
new book?
Yeah, just came out. Jeb. It's called Objections.
Ooh.
Okay, so, I don't know where it went, but here, let me put it back on the screen. This book, Objections, I just purchased it. I haven't read much of it, so I can't tell you good or bad, but I know his last book is pretty good.
Travis read that one below, it's not a prospect.
Yeah, Fanatical Prospecting. Now, he kind of kicks your butt a little bit. He's like, if you can't make your 50 calls a day and you can't do it in an hour and a half, you suck. So he kind of kicked my butt. Because I'm pretty soft on salespeople, and when I made calls yesterday, we had 45 minutes. I made 10 phone calls in 45 minutes. And I had 4 conversations. So that being said, if you want him to be nice and soft, that's not a good book. But this is his latest. So just some books for you to think about. I did bring some Audio Pain Budget Decision, but I think we'll stop on
I'll
that.
put, if you send those to me, then
Yeah.
I'll put those on our.
Okay,
resource
good.
page. And I'll put the books on the resource.
Yeah,
page.
absolutely. So Travis in the back row, your takeaway today, Travis Comby? Here, let me give you a good slide.
Yeah.
I'll let you think it over.
It always helps me to rethink selling to people the way they want to be sold to. And I always have to take a step back and think about that versus how I buy.
Yeah, because share what you said. How did you determine which truck you were going to buy?
Price is not like price.
Okay. But at first it was price. Then as I slowed down, I said, well, what else? Well, I want to make sure I'm getting a good deal. And then it went to, what are they going to throw in? Now I'm hearing sales guy. So if I'll slow down a little bit, not just as soon as I hear price go, well, I'll tell you what I can do. Let's go get Mark Peterson. So go ahead and draw that out a little bit. So so yours would be slow down, sell how they want it. Matt, what was yours?
I would go with Travis Palmer, help co-build the plan and help them.
Got it. Yeah, because I typically don't talk about money, but I will say, is that a deal breaker? Because I want to know right away. When I'm interviewing people, I talked to a guy last night, he was making $70,000 as a warehouse manager in Sonoma, California. Well, I know this particular job pays $12.50 an hour. And I said, is that a deal breaker? Yes. We're done. Fair enough. Because everybody else was good with that, but then we can stop right there. Now I can also say, do you know anybody else? So it's not just a flush, but when I told you, you said, hey, I can afford $200 a month. Okay, you told me you were losing $80,000. The math isn't adding up on this. Let's pretend you did have that $80,000 and I told you it was $10,000 to fix this. Is this a deal breaker? Not necessarily in the role play. Scott, how about for you?
I'm going to differ from the budget. I feel like I'm okay with budget. Decisions, sometimes I just assume the person I'm talking with is in charge. So I think my key is who else besides yourself is in charge of making this decision. or Chicky that we were talking to today, she's gonna go talk, okay, does anyone in that room that you're gonna talk with, because she was gonna go talk with the directors, does anyone in that room have veto power? Or, who has the final say on whether you do the training?
Wow.
What if they say no? So I didn't put that future in the present.
Mhm.
She was gonna call back after the board meeting sometime this afternoon, but they could have just said,
Or they may not even have got to it. They may not even got on their agenda. So we can't read their mind, but I think great questions. Can anyone veto? And remember, you always assume she's in charge.
yeah.
Now, I assume you're in charge, Chicky, and I'm using your name. I assume you're in charge,
I remember
Chicky.
her name Chicky.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do.
Can anyone veto this? What's Chicky's personality?
She seemed like a steady or a C.
Yeah.
Like-
I was gonna say like some kind of weird CI mix.
Okay, but there's some I in there somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Because Chicky's not a real name, but that's the name that her parents gave her when she's little, because she made a name like a bird. No, we're talking about
Oh,
a
I was
different
talking
Chicky.
about Chicky.
He's talking about the real
Oh, the
Chicky.
actual Chicky,
Kind of like, what was the one that drank beer? What was her name?
Sunshine Beer.
Yeah, Sunshine Beers. Thought she'd be an
She
influencer,
wasn't
but
an I.
no. So always assume that they're the decision maker. And I'm talking about when you say it out loud. Travis, I assume you're the decision maker at Microtech. Is there anybody that can veto this decision? So notice I didn't say to you, who's in charge? I want to make you feel, no matter what it is, your personality, I want to make you either feel correct. I want to make you feel like there's not going to be a confrontation, loved, or win. But that's where I walk through that. So a good point. All right, Danny, you get the last word since Jim's not here.
Mine was basically after my question, your comment of, I think only 22% want to get educated about budget, so don't educate yourself, especially those people that are euthanized. They want the feelings, not facts.
And that goes back to the original question you answered for me. Why do we have a system? Why on earth would we have a system? It's so in step 2, you know how you're going to proceed. Are you going to sell or educate? Well, he's compliant. Oh, and that's easy for you because remember, you are a steady compliant. So that's, you don't have to worry. The ones you have to worry about are the dominant influencers because when in doubt, you email. I don't want you to do that. I want you to call them up and say, hey, get her done. I got my good looking beard on today. By the way, you're all groomed. You look like $1 million.
All right, 6 minutes.
6
We'll come
minutes.
back and smile and dial.
I don't know if we'll smile, but we'll dial.
We'll dial for dollars. We'll get the phone book out.